Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to our session, Women and Girls Access to Education in Afghanistan and Turkey with the Servas International Peace School. My name is Julie Cormack and I'll be facilitating this session. My colleague Kent McCauley is working in the background. He has assisted with some organization and we'll be helping our two technical experts, that's Dan Baer and Bianca Meyer. Kent and I are both representatives to the United Nations in New York for the NGO Servas International. Kent is the main representative of a team of 5 Servas reps. I'd like to talk a little bit or introduce briefly Servas International. This group started in 1949 and it was referred to as Peace Builders. It is a global membership-based travel and hosting community that encourages promotion of peace through member visitations and through its activities as an NGO accredited with the UN. Part of these visitations are country-initiated programs such as the Peace School in Turkey. Today we have 3 speakers, 2 Afghan social activists passionate about education and the rights of women and girls in Afghanistan, and the country representative or national secretary for Servas Turkey. And here I'd like to acknowledge a young woman, Selan Aydin. She was the original speaker for the Turkish Peace School. She's been involved with the school for about 15 years since it started. And she and her family are safe after the devastating earthquakes in Turkey, but sadly she is unable to participate in today's event. So I would like to send our thoughts to our Servas friends in Turkey, including Selan and her family. I would like to start this session by recognizing that this year, 2023, is the 75th anniversary of the United Nations Declarations of Human Rights. It was first proclaimed in December 1948. I would like to read the first sentence of the preamble of this vital document. And as I read it, I would ask you to reflect on what it is to live free, to live in a just, equal, and peaceful world, and to consider how information and communications technology, or ICT, may expand or limit your rights in that world. It states, whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. I'm very pleased to introduce our first speaker, Khatira Daryabi. She's a young Afghan social activist currently living in Canada, where she's studying a BA in political science and a master's in business management. While still living in Kabul, her activism for gender equality led her to organize large bicycle protests by women and girls. She has been recognized for her activism through nominations and awarding of some honors. Khatira, I welcome you to start your speech.
Hello, everyone. So let's start it. I have a question for you. Close your eyes and imagine this given life to you. You're a female born in a society where hearing no becomes part of your identity. No to sports, no to freedom, no to school, no to freedom of speech, no to choosing your own life. The nose created an oppressive culture that controls you from thriving and securing your own basic human rights. The yes becomes a culture where men choose what you wear, whom you marry, how many kids to have, or even what you think and eat. How would you feel to live in a prison society like this that consistently breaks your wings? Please open your eyes. Let's talk about women's education in Afghanistan, the oppressive society where they are ruled and their basic rights are taken away by their religious fundamentalists just because they are a woman, or they are women. My name is Khatra Daryabi. I'm a wealth member studying for a dual degree in Bachelor of Political Science and a Master of Business Management at Sauder School of Business with a full scholarship. I advocate for refugee and Afghan women's rights to educational, social, and political opportunities in Afghanistan. Today, I am supporting and narrating the struggles of buried voices under an unjust political game and system that violates Afghan women's rights. I grew up in the Hazara most populated area, and the last few years we slept and woke up with bombs exploding over our heads. And further, the discrimination that Hazara people and women have faced. We are well known as flat noses, and the minority that have been a target of genocide since 1919 and the Habibullah Khan period, where Hazara was slaughtered for having a different physical appearance and beliefs. Under the Taliban regime, the cases of murders and bombing of Hazara schools, mosques, and historical places have increased. The Taliban militant group, which ruled Afghanistan from the late 1990s to 2021, regained control after the international troops withdrew in August, and the Afghan government collapsed since then. The Taliban reimposed a harsh interpretation of Islamic law prohibiting girls from attending a school. Today, my fear and pain are more profound than what I experienced living for 14 years of my childhood in Afghanistan. My fear and pain are the stories of millions of girls who are forbidden of their basic human rights, present and the next generation who will remain uneducated, unaware of their human rights, and will be taught to be the slave of giving birth, cleaning, accepting rape, violence, and constantly mistreatments. Girls my age, younger, sole breadwinners' mothers, who are forcefully imprisoned behind bars where it's a home of violence, lack of opportunities to thrive, and severe mental health where constant suicidal thoughts are considered normal. Taliban closed the doors of schools and educational centers, and participating in social, political activities are discouraged, and those actions are deemed un-Islamic, unethical, and against Quran and Sharia. Women activists who raise their voices for employment opportunities, freedom of speech, and want to live in peace have been brutally tortured, raped, and forced to marry the Taliban members. The male-dominant culture, unacceptable behavior, and religious fundamentalists are silencing women and creating a profound gender segregation between men and women in Afghanistan. Gender segregation should not be as an excuse to keep all women from education, as the Taliban did in the 1990s. If you, I, we, and the international community don't commit a strong advocacy that demands compliance with these basic requirements for any fair and just society, then this will have a very heavy consequences for the next generation who will be raised blindly and its impact in the world around us. My mother, Mariam Daryabi, was born in around 1970s. She got married at age 13 and gave birth to my older brother at age 14 and a half. Just precisely at the age when I left Afghanistan, hoping to pursue my higher education and nourish my dream of becoming the first Afghan female president. She lived in an era where education for girls was not an option. The culture of early forced marriages, violence, oppression was not only encouraged but forced upon girls as young as 13. My mother always wanted to go to school, but was ashamed for the bride to speak her mind freely or getting outside of the 3-bedroom house. My mother grew up in the absence of childhood as a girl and a mother that painted unpleasant memories of violence and imprisonment. She was pregnant with my older sister. She had to feed the family of 9 and be the last to eat the leftovers if there were any left. My mother raised 7 children, and I'm the youngest daughter, and yet I'm one of the luckiest girls. My parents fought for my rights as a girl to go to school, to bike, to break the cultural barriers, and be strong activists who wants to listen to people and provide acts of service. Over the last 20 years, Afghan women have worked towards ensuring greater respect for and protection of their rights to education, work, political participation, and freedom of movement and expression. Respect for the rights of women and girls of Afghanistan now will be a harbinger of the country's future. But the Taliban's de facto government has proved to illustrate a future like my mother's stories. It's been closer to 2 years now, but how many cases of forced marriages, rape, and violence do we have? How many doors of schools are closed, or how many women breed under burqa or imprisonment at home for good? It is a way of breaking a powerful chain. First, you keep the girls from getting an education, so they don't have the skills to work, and before you know it, you have deprived an entire generation of becoming part of society. I stand before you today with a heavy heart as we witness the tragedy unfolding in Afghanistan. As the Taliban takes over the country once again, I cannot help but to think about the women and girls who will suffer the most. In particular, their access to education, which is vital for their future and is now in grave danger. Well, we all know that education is the foundation for a better future. It is what allows us to dream big and reach our full potential. Education empowers individuals to contribute to their communities and make a positive changes in the world. And yet, in Afghanistan, education has been denied to women and girls for far too long now. Education is not just a fundamental right, but also an essential tool for empowerment, economic growth, and peace. Educating girls and women create a more prosperous and stable society where everyone can contribute to their full potential. It is not only morally right to ensure that every woman has access to education, but also a strategic imperative for the future of Afghanistan and this world that we're all living in. Extreme restrictions on the rights of women and girls marked the Taliban's rule from 1996 to 2001. They were banned from attending school, working outside the home, and even leaving the house without a male companion. When the Taliban was overthrown, there was a hope that these oppressive policies would be a thing of the past. But now, with the Taliban once again in control, that hope has been dashed. The Taliban's extremist ideology deems education unnecessary for girls and women, and they have already made it clear to restrict women's access to education. This means that millions of girls and women will be denied of the opportunity to learn, grow, and fulfill their potential. They will be stripped of their dreams and aspiration, and the world cannot afford to let this happen. The Taliban imposed its strict interpretation of Islamic law, which will undoubtedly have severe consequences for women's and girls' education. Schools are shut down, and female teachers and students are barred from attending. For years, Afghan women and girls have fought for their rights to education, and we have seen remarkable progress in recent times. More and more girls were attending a school. Women were breaking barriers in science, technology, and business. However, with the Taliban's takeover, the progress is now at risk. The situation is not just heartbreaking, it is a human rights violation. It is unacceptable that half of Afghanistan population is being denied the opportunity to learn and achieve their potential. And we cannot stand idly by while this happens. There are so many heartbreaking stories of Afghan women who cannot go to school due to various factors such as poverty, cultural barriers, and the recent Taliban takeover. Here are some of the examples I'll give you. Khadija is a 13-year-old Afghan girl who has never been to school because her family is too poor to afford her education. Her father, a daily wage laborer, barely earns enough to provide for the basic needs, let alone to pay for tuition and school costs. Zainab was forced to drop out of the school when she turned 12, as her parents believed that girls should not continue their education after puberty. Zainab's family is conservative and adheres to strict gender rules, which means that she is expected to marry and focus on domestic responsibility, such as cleaning and giving birth. Despite her passion for learning, Zainab is unable to pursue her education due to cultural barriers. Another example, Amina was a student at the girls' school in Kabul recently, but she was forced to drop out after the Taliban took over. The Taliban has banned girls' education in many parts of the country, and the Amina school was closed down as well. Amina is devastated by this loss, and she had hopes of becoming a teacher and contributing to her community's development. Nasima is a young woman who lives in a rural village in Afghanistan. She wants to go to school, but the nearest school is several kilometers away, and she cannot travel alone due to safety concern. Nasima's parents are also hesitant to allow her to go to school, as they fear for her safety. As a result, Nasima's dreams of getting an education are put on hold. These are just a few examples and stories of the challenges that Afghan women face in accessing education. Despite the progress made in recent years, many girls and women are still denied the right to education due to poverty, cultural barriers, and political conflicts. It is essential for us to address these issues and ensure that every girl and woman has access to quality education, which is crucial for their empowerment and the country's development. We must urge our government to prioritize the issue of women's education in their foreign policy agendas. We must put pressure on the Taliban to respect women's rights and ensure that they have the opportunity to access education. We must support Afghan organizations that are working tirelessly to protect and promote women's education. Moreover, we must also support the brave women and girls who continue to defy the Taliban's restrictions and fight for their education. We must amplify their voices and advocate for their rights so that they know that they are not alone in these struggles. I call upon every one of us here to take action and do our part in supporting Afghan women and girls' access to education. We must stand in solidarity with them. We must not rest until they can freely pursue their education. I want to remind everyone that education is not a privilege, but a right that every girl and woman deserves. It is a key to unlocking their potential and building a better future for all of us. And today, let us all come together and ensure that Afghan women and girls can continue to learn, grow, and thrive. Let's commit ourselves to this cause. Let us do everything in our power to support the women and girls of Afghanistan and to ensure that they have access to education and all the opportunities that come with it. Together, we can make a huge difference and build a brighter and better future for all. I know that you're asking how exactly and what can you do? We can raise our voices and demand that the international community take action. We can support organizations that are working to provide education to women and girls in Afghanistan, and even in the most challenging circumstances, such as Taliban, for example, being in Afghanistan. And we can advocate for policies that prioritize education, gender equality, and human rights. But most importantly, we can show our solidarity with the women and girls of Afghanistan. We can let them know that they're not alone and that we stand with them in their struggles for education and equality. We can amplify their voices and share their stories so that the world knows what they're going through. To the women and girls of Afghanistan, I say this: you're not forgotten. You're not alone. We hear you and we stand with you. We will continue to fight for your rights to education. We will not rest until you can learn, grow, and thrive in a safe and supportive environment. Thank you, and I will leave you with this last thought. Reflect in your own time. Who would you be without receiving the education that shaped the person you are? Thank you.
Hatira, thank you. It was a very passionate, very hard speech, I think, to make and for the audience to hear, but it is the truth. And we, the world, need to do something. I really appreciate your statement about we hear you, we stand with you, we want to be there with you. I think these are lessons that we all need to learn. What you're talking about really is the silencing of half the population, and education is the starting point for everything. And when that door is closed, it closes anything that is beyond that. And I think you've made that incredibly clear in this very courageous and deeply honest presentation. Thank you very much, Hatira. Thank you. It's my sincere pleasure to introduce our second speaker, Nazia Nouri. She is also an Afghan social activist. She currently lives in Germany, and she advocates for gender equality, especially in education and in peace building. Nazia is an active member of UN Women and speaks publicly on the rights of women and girls, and has also spoken on the TPNW. She is co-founder of the Afghan Women Alliance for Development. She has a master's degree in international relations, specifically in peace and diplomacy. And she has a Bachelor of Arts degree in Islamic law. Nazia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Joey. Have you ever imagined being in a position where you have started with zero draft, have come long way, achieved so much, and have big dreams, but suddenly everything reverses, and you are back at the starting point? Yes, this is the situation of women and girls of Afghanistan, especially with their access to education. I'm Nazia Nouri, Afghan social activist working for gender equality, women and girls' access to education, and building peace. Today, I'm going to share my story, which can be relatable to all Afghan girls of my age. The story which I'm going to share now is not just my story, but the story of hundreds and thousands of Afghan girls who strive to get education in difficult circumstances. My story doesn't begin with me, but it begins with the lives of my parents. My parents living in war and conflict zone who couldn't able to complete their education and reach their dreams. When Taliban took power in 1990s, my parents decided to leave the country, their home, family, and everything behind, migrated to one of the neighboring countries where they dreamed of building a better future for themselves and their children. I was born as a refugee girl where are less possibilities of good and quality education. My parents didn't want me to deprived of good and quality education, which were unfortunately very costly and was far away from our place of residence. There was less public transport and student transport facilities, and I had to walk several kilometers away between my home and school. My father started working outside of the city so that he can earn more to provide me good life and quality education. I could only see my father after 2, 3, and 4 months. My mom, she was my motivator. She was motivating me through telling me her stories on how she was getting education back in Afghanistan with limited access of girls to public schools. Distance from her home to school were so long, where she has to walk miles away, passing through jungles, rivers, mountains, and a lot of ups and downs of the roads during summer and winter. My mom couldn't able to reach her dreams just because of less opportunities to education for Afghan girls in Afghanistan. The stories of my mom always motivated me to walk 100 miles every day between my home and school. It what motivated me to work hard and to be a person my parents wanted me to be. The school where I was studying, the medium of instruction was English, and I have to learn it beside the language of communication, which was not my native language. I had computer books where it has just the pictures of how to operate the computer and how it functions. I always dreamed of to have a computer where I can practice the lessons which I read in my books. When my mom knew about this wish to have my own computer, she started working by providing tuitions to the students and tailoring and sewing the clothes of the people in order to collect money for my computer. On the annual day of my school, where I brought the result of my first position in the class, I was gifted computer from my parents. That day changed my life. I was so happy, and it gave me a new perspective for life. My passion to study further has been increased. And I wanted to work more and more to bring my parents' wishes come true. And I did so. I became the first refugee girl and a prominent student of my school who topped the merit exam in whole city, which were publicized widely. My parents were proud of me. In the meanwhile, I always thought of the girls of my age in Afghanistan who had limited access to the education. And so is my parents. That's why we decided to go back to Afghanistan and provide what we have got from here and as a refugee. My parents started their own way of schooling to the girls who are far from school and couldn't able to go to education, to schools or to have access to the education. I started a leadership and management course, which was 2 years course for young girls. This was a small center. One day I saw a room full of computers, but it was locked. I got curious that why this computer lab is closed. I asked the administration. They said it's closed because we do not have the instructor and no one is interested to join it. I requested that, could you please allow me to use the computer lab, as I knew some computer skills which could be beneficial for my fellows. They happily accepted and allowed me to help my fellows and classmates to learn the basic skills and functions of the computer. At the end of the course, I got a computer as a prize of my works. I realized the importance of education and digital literacy in my life. That's why I was trying to give back to the community. At the end of my leadership course, they announced the prize for $10,000 for the projects which could be beneficial for more people. Me and my friend developed a project for digital literacy for schoolgirls. And fortunately, our project was accepted between 3 or 4 projects, and we won the prize of $10,000 to implement the project. That was the first satisfaction for me, and that was all that I could do for my community at that time. Like me, hundreds of other girls were inspired and empowered during past 20 years, which was just because of the realization of importance of education and digital literacy. Can we move to the next slide, please? As we go back to the history of education in Afghanistan, when Taliban first took power in 1996, they banned girls from school. And during 1996 until 2001, girls' education fell to 0%. After 2001 until 2018, previous government and international community and the people of Afghanistan has struggled a lot to bring more girls to school, back to school. But at the result, they could only able to bring 30% of the girls back to school, which we can say is not enough for that time. A lot of struggles has been done, but only 30% of girls could be enrolled. And how we can imagine this, that at that time when everything was going so well, but still the girls of at that time couldn't able to be enrolled in the school. So we were like always thinking positive to going forward, not backward, but that doesn't happen. In 2021, again, girls are banned from school. And again, the education for girls fell to 0%. Can we move to the other slide? Yeah. And since then, we can see from August 2021, it has been 500 days that girls are banned from high school, higher education, and are not allowed to work. Human rights violation, discrimination, and violence against women in Afghanistan are increased. Women and girls are facing mental health issues, poverty, forced and early marriages. That makes Afghanistan the only country where women and girls who are deprived of their very basic human rights. Next slide, please. From my personal observation, here are some recommendations that I could make for you to take as a notes from this session and to spread it around. I request you all to ensure continued attention and action to support education of Afghan girls and young women, provide financial and technological resources for continuation of education and capacity building, provide accessible, flexible, and sustainable public funding for programs to make technology affordable for all people to broaden digital inclusion, support movement building led by girls by girl and young women and gender diverse activists, allow them to pursue and strengthen their activism by investing in formation of network and association, by creating participatory structures and mechanisms, whereby they can influence policy and norm-making processes. Recognize Afghan women not as victims, but as equal partners to inform policy priorities and decision-making. Facilitate strategic partnership with women civil society organizations in Afghanistan supporting education, amplifying advocacy opportunities that are driven by Afghan women, invest in innovative ways to provide direct financial support to these civil society organizations working on education. Next slide, please. Yeah. So here are some short calls to action, where I'm requesting each individual here that how they can use their personal skills for advocacy and advancing the women and girls' rights in Afghanistan. Please show solidarity to Afghan women and girls in Afghanistan. When you are in such a platforms where you can talk or you have the opportunity to talk, please talk about the girls and women's rights on behalf of them and represent them to spread more awareness about the situation in Afghanistan, what girls are going through in Afghanistan. What we are seeing in social media is not enough for us, because there are restrictions on freedom of speech. Let them, the Afghan girls and women, speak by themselves. Let them to tell their stories, share their stories, because this is the only thing where we can spread awareness about the situation of Afghanistan. And also, I request you all, please use your skill in some way to mentor Afghan girls if you have contact with or you can find one. Please provide them and guide them different opportunities if you have access to that. Ask your communities and governments to take actions, accept more Afghan refugees, provide scholarships, accept more Afghan students in their universities, colleges, and institutions. Start wherever you are. What programs has worked for other countries in conflict zones, implement it in Afghanistan too. And if you see that any project or any digital program has worked for you or for your community, and it could be implemented in Afghanistan too, please bring it up and implement it if you have the capacity to implement it. Also ask your community or organizations to give funding to the ideas and the projects which support Afghan girls' education. These are all the things that we can do just by doing investing in education. This is the only thing that we can do for our Afghan girls and their access to education. Please make everything possible to get them to the education back. And it cannot be possible just by words. We have to take actions. Next slide, please. These are some hashtags which are widely used in social media in support of Afghan women and girls, and some of them use for awareness and some of them use for advocacy. So I request you all, if you are in social media existing and posting anything for Afghan girls and women, you can use these hashtags in your social media accounts. Yeah, so in the last slide, at the bottom of the page, there's a link for a donation. I'm working for digital literacy for Afghan women and girls in Afghanistan, for which I need support. That's why I put this link. If you could support it, it's better. I appreciate it. If not, then you can just spread it around in your network and communities and to the people who want to support Afghan women and girls education. And if you have any question, please feel free to ask in the chat box. Thank you so much.
Nazia, thank you very much. That's like Khatira's speech, deeply personal, very courageous, and very, very true to your heart. You both end your presentation with very substantial recommendations, and that's a way to go forward in this process. I very much appreciated both of your motivations from your mothers, and Nazia, your story about the teaching yourself English, teaching yourself the computer after being gifted the computer from your parents, deeply, deeply heartfelt. And then when you were at the school and there was a closed door behind which were unused computers, you and a friend applied for some money and carried forward this aspect of digital literacy. You taught computer to yourself, and then you taught to your peers and to your friends. And now you're continuing that process with your desire to continue to build digital literacy amongst Afghan women and girls. That's a story of paying it forward. And when we pay it forward, it means that we move from the past to the future. And that's where change happens. I feel deeply privileged to hear your stories. Very, very, very hard to hear, but very important to hear. Thank you. I'm really happy to introduce our third and final speaker, Gülşen Elyak. She's the National Secretary of Servas Turkey. This role, National Secretary, is a key administrative role that eases and coordinates travel and hosting opportunities by members. In her day-to-day life, she's an accountant and a financier, and she brings this skill also by volunteering on the Servas International Internal Audit Committee. Gülşen has generously offered to give the presentation on the Turkish Peace School. As I mentioned before, Selan is not available. Gülşen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Julie. Hello, everyone. Thanks to all participants. Many thanks to the organization team and also, of course, Servas International, who gives this opportunity to be here, to talk here. Before I start my topic, I want to speak briefly, very briefly, about the education system in Turkey. Turkey, as you know, in 2021, in the UN, Turkey changed its spelling to the Türkiye. So I will try to say Türkiye, but out of habits, I may say Turkey, but its correct one is Türkiye. The history of education for girls was given for the first time during the Ottoman period in the middle of the 19th century, and was extended in the include all the girls after proclamation of the Republic in 1923. Around 1842, in the Ottoman period, women started to receive midwifery education in the medical schools. This was considered the first legal gain for women's rights. The Civil Code of 1926 took the historical development of women's rights in Turkey to another level. Unfortunately, over the last 10 years, more than a decade, serious changes have occurred in our education system, with limited curriculum and books to be read determined by the Ministry of National Education, there is limited flexibility actually. Today, we have an education system that looks free from outside, but it's restricted actually. But today our topic is about Servas Peace School. So begin with Servas Peace School. Servas Peace School, which developed as a way to bring communities and people of many cultures together. This is the reason why the Servas Peace School project is so important and so effective. And since Julie mentioned Servas, I won't introduce it again. So let's begin.
Güzel bir birlikte yaşamak, aynı havayı solumak, aynı gökyüzünü görmek, kuşların sesini dinlemek, hayatı paylaşmak.
Sizin hayaliniz bir dünya olsun.
Peace was the main reason for the establishment of Servas. And for peace to exist, many elements are needed, such as being open to learning, communicating, listening, being environmentally friendly, animal lover, being without prejudice, judgment, or hostility. We believe that learning at a young age is of great importance, and it is the foundation of the better world. That's what Servas Peace School projects tries to prove. And what is the Servas Peace School? Let's see. Bianca.
Kuti, Eksi, Shwidi, Rwa, Kra, Ati.
Haydi kapının orada ya. Ne için geldin pardon?
Burası dünyanın en güzel okulu. Buradan ayrılmak istemiyorum. Burada yatıp kalkmak istiyorum.
Çocuklara dünya kültürlerini tanıtmak, dünyanın bilgi birikimini çocuklara getirmek, köyümüzün yerlilerine, büyüklerine, ailelerine dünyanın bilgilerini ulaştırmak, dünyanın kültürel birikimini buraya taşımak için 9 sene önce bir yola çıktık. İsmi Bizimle Yaşayın, Bizimle Paylaşın programı. Başka bir deyişle ismi Barış Okulu. Burada ne yapıyoruz? Amacımız ne? Burada Servas adlı bir uluslararası organizasyon bünyesinde üye olan insanlar köyümüze geliyor. Farklı ülkelerden geliyorlar ve bildiklerini çocuklara burada sokakta gördüğünüz gibi çocuklarla paylaşıyorlar.
Servas Peace School is a project that started in a village called Ekinci, ID in Arabic. In Antakya, maybe you know Antakya as a Hatay. Thanks to a tenacious teacher with a good heart and broad vision. Of course, with support of his family and the local living there. It takes place every July since 2009. Next slide, please. Volunteers are all Servas members, and after we announced the program with email, they contact Mehmet, the teacher and organizer, or his volunteers, and get registered to be able to participate in the program. And please, Bianca. Yeah, one more. In this school, volunteers who come all over the world give whatever they would like to offer, such as music, acting, games, painting, language learning, pandemic, anything that will be good for these children aged 5 to 15. Next slide, please. This event takes place in gardens of olives, in the house yards, on the street, near the river, wherever in the village, without any walls or any borders. Next, please. And what about accommodation? One more slide, please. Yeah, where are there volunteers staying during 10 days? Yeah, let's see together, watch together. Bianca.
9 sene içerisinde kaç ülkeden geldi? Çok ülkeden geldi. Arjantin'den İtalya'ya, Belçika'dan Mısır'a, İtalya'dan Amerika Birleşik Devletleri'ne, Kanada'ya, Yeni Zelanda'dan İran'a, 25 ülkeden çocuklar, gönüllüler hiçbir karşılık beklemeden köyümüze geldiler, gelmeye devam ediyorlar. Geldikleri zaman onlar otelde kalmıyorlar, onlar ailelerin yanlarında kalıyorlar. Ailelerin yanlarında kalınca da kültürü birebir yaşama fırsatı yakalıyorlar. Aynı zamanda insani ilişkiler kurup kendileri de o kültürden öğreniyorlar. Köylü insanlar da, aileler de bu insanlardan çokça faydalanıyorlar.
Ailelerle ilgili de buradaki insanlar çok misafirperverler. Onların kültüründe bu var, paylaşım var zaten. Onların dininde, inançlarında bunlar var. Çok ön yargısızlar ve bize güveniyorlar. En önemli olan şey buydu. Çocuklarını güvenerek gönderiyorlar. Evlerini güvenerek açıyorlar. Her şeylerini bizimle paylaşıyorlar. Gelen insanları kucaklıyorlar.
نعرف جليلة غير لا وانت كويسين اهلا وسهلا كل سنة تعاون.
Çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Çocuklarımız seviniyor, huzurlu oluyorlar. Yani yaptığınız için çok teşekkür ediyoruz bir daha. Biz de çok memnun kaldık.
Çocuklar için çok şanslılar. Hocalar için de yani farklı kültürü yaşıyorlar. Farklı insanları tanıyorlar. O da güzel bir şey. Biz ev sahibi olarak da mutlu oluyoruz. Hani farklı bir kültürle, farklı bir insanla tanışıyorsun. Hani örneğin Amerika'dan, Filipin'den bile, Hindistan'dan bize geçen yıl yoga öğrettiler. Hani bizim için de ayrı bir şey. Keyifli oluyor yani. Kültürler bir arada olunca biz onlara bir şey öğretiyoruz. Onlar bize bir şeyler öğretiyor. Çok güzel şeyler yaşıyoruz ya. Apayrı bir şey oluyor.
Yeah. Imagine the amazement of these villagers. some of whom even can't speak fluent Turkish. And try to put yourself in those people's place, especially during the first year of this event. I will think there will be much laughter, jokes, and communicating throughout the body languages. Think about it. Hispanic, Italian, American, Indian, Filipino, more than 20 countries have been hosted by these generous and beautiful people. Imagine the enthusiasm of these children. Everything that has been given to them accepted with gratitude and joy. And what about the foreigners who come every year to be part of these children's lives, to honor and build that connection, to touch someone's life, to touch their life? I believe something can simply not be expressed. Who do you think will learn more? Or who do you think gain wisdom and insight from this program? I believe young, old, foreign, local, everybody will join this program. And the next slide, please, Bianca. Program is simple. There is 2 sessions in the morning and afternoon. Volunteers set for a daily meeting once a day to both give feedbacks for the activities on that day and plan to other days. During the day, volunteers have free time. They usually spend their time with locals and enjoy culture activities, and mostly like cooking. We also organize additional activities for volunteers, such as city tour, museum visits, or bar hangout. We are open to every suggestion. And let's hear from volunteers. Bianca.
Her Servas Barış Okulu'nun son günde söylediğim şey şu: yılımın en güzel 10 günüydü. O yüzden nasıl söyledim, Servas'ın yeri benim için gerçekten çok başka. Benim köyümde, benim memleketimde olan bir şey ve böyle bir şeye ev sahipliği yaptığımız için köy olarak gerçekten çok mutluyum.
Well, I first heard about the Servas Peace School here in Antakya from my national secretary in Georgia. I'm coming from Servas, Georgia at the moment. She had a positive experience working with Mehmet, the project leader here, and so I decided to try it. I am here, this is my 9th day, and it has been wonderful. The whole community is so supportive of this idea. They're very open. It's amazing to see that this exists so close to a potential war zone. Syria is so close by, but yet here it seems like everything is normal. The other volunteers here, the session leaders, they're very creative. The kids are learning a lot. They're very active. It's so positive here. I'm happy that I came and was able to be a part of this.
Yeah, we are talking about education, right? think about your children learning in wide open spaces like gardens or camps or anywhere in the nature. I am sure many of you have sent or sending your little ones to the after-school camps and know the benefit of the learning without dictating. That's what the Servas Peace School is about, to show children more. Let children feel safe, feel free. Let them be creative. Let them see that there is no difference between us, whether it's skin color, eye color, or how we speak. To bring these varied cultures, languages, colors, traditions all together. That's how peace education can be permanent. That's why, let's say, peace school. Bianca.
Barış okulu.
Yani ben de burada çok mutluyum. Dünyanın en iyi okulu olarak düşünüyorum. Hiç bitmemesini istiyorum. Her gün gelmeyi istiyorum. Sizi de çok özleyeceğim.
The big activities, the big programs usually is way easy. Many people come from different parts of the world and spend here several days, and it's an economic activity, and all the people win and win. Then I think it's a good example for to build the peace in the world, share, and to find always the ways to become friendly, to change, to discover the other. Discover the other is probably the best thing I found here.
Yes, as you hear, it's a win-win program. And thank you for listening. I hope we'll see you this year in the Antakya, in a Kinji village. And the floor is yours, Julie.
Thank you very much, Gülşen. That was a beautiful presentation. All three were very, very special. You know, I love the phrase, children feel safe and free. I think when children are feeling safe and are free to do what they want, that's where education is. You know, if a child is worried about food or their family or violence, or in the recent case with Turkey, thank you, and the natural disaster, children aren't able to focus on learning. They struggle the life around them. So I think what this Peace School shows is that there's a great opportunity for connection between visitors and locals. And what that does is it just brings people together, and being involved in activities. It's very, very special. Thank you. I would like to remind people that if they would like to put questions or comments in the chat, you're welcome to do so. After the Q&A, just again, a reminder, each speaker will have the opportunity to give some final thoughts or reflections, comments, and then I will finish up with the concluding statement. So we can now turn to the Q&A, and Dan, Bianca, and Kent, I would ask you to facilitate this, please. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Julie. I'm happily taking over. You can't really see me, but that doesn't matter because I'm here as I will use my voice. That's important. So we've received a couple of questions from the audience that I would like to ask on behalf of the people that asked the questions to the speakers. And I just decided that I'm actually going to go backwards. So our most recent presentation from Gülşen, I got a question from Alina. So I would like to ask, what is the name of the village that is home to the Peace School? Gülşen, if you want to.
Yeah, Ekinci village, Ekinci.
All right, and then there is a direct second question, which is, does the school function year-round?
Sorry?
Does the school function year-round? Is it a one, I guess the question asks if it's a one-time event or if it's the school.
Yeah, every July for 10 days, it's happening in Ekinci, but every year in July, first 2 weeks of July, you can think, just for 10 days.
All right. And then a third question, sorry to bomb you with the questions now directly, but it's all connected. So I'm going to ask you from Helga. She was wondering, how about this year's Peace School? Because it is in earthquake area, she's concerned. So what can we do, she asked, that Peace School and the village can be revived?
Actually, we will hold Peace School this year also. Of course, lots of our families' home have been destroyed. We think the tent will be for the accommodation, but you know, it's so not clear. We cannot see our future clearly, but we are. We know we will hold it in the July again, same time. It will happen no matter what. We are the reason this Peace School continue last 15. This year will be 16, and it's because our what will be the correct, because we are please help the right words.
All right, so we're hoping for the best. Thank you, Gülşen. One more comment from Mary. She loved the phrase "discover the other," which was in the video. Now I'm moving to Nazia, because Paige Lacombe was wondering, Nazia, are you living in Afghanistan right now?
I think Julie in introduction said that I have recently moved to Germany and I'm not living in Afghanistan. But my parents, they still live in Afghanistan. That's why, like, I have very limited access in showing my face or my identity in social media or in media, just for the safety of my parents.
Okay, thank you, Nazia. Then another question to you, because you talk about online and privacy. Well, Julie was wondering, in terms of your desire to create online courses for Afghan women, are there ways that safe connections can be made with individual or groups of women in Afghanistan through the internet or social media?
Thank you, Julie. Actually, providing and creating safe spaces in digital area is not so much easy, especially now where cybersecurity attacks are so much, and especially when it comes to war zone countries. It's a little bit challenging, but yeah, there are some programs and some ways that we can use for preventing these cybersecurity attacks, and we can create safe spaces for women and girls, and provide them online education. And the best way is we can do it through the organization or civil society organization that are led by women, and they're working for women in Afghanistan, and they have better connection with civil society and the people living around them, and people can know them and can trust them. So this is the simple way that we can do it through the connections that we have with the people and with the civil society organizations.
Thank you very much. And I believe that for any specific names, since you provided kindly your contact details, if there's any more specific questions, the audience could contact you and ask for a specific name as well. I'll move to Katra now, because I'm going around to spread a bit the questions. We've received a question from Hamza for Katra. Thank you for the beautiful presentation. Please let us know whether you have contact with other women from Afghanistan in Canada and help each other in rehabilitation.
Hi, thank you for the comment and the question. I do have a lot of contact with people who are learning how to bike, and I'm teaching or basically starting that organization, basically that project. But I do not have specifically any connection in terms of rehabilitation, or I'm not sure what you mean in regard of rehabilitation specifically, but not really. But I do have, if your question is in regards to like people in Afghanistan, I do have a lot of connection with them, and I still am really close to a lot of people who are there, because I believe in hearing their stories and how that changed my mindset and my motivation to work, and how that would encourage me to encourage a lot of other people and share those stories. At the same time, I'm working in a business that is promoting women's rights and their stories and creating jobs for women. So that keeps me really closely connected with them, and how, as a leader, we need to be together to do something, to really do something and care about them.
Thank you, Katra. Julie, you have your hand up. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask directly?
Yes, I actually just wanted to add a comment to Khatira's answer. There is, Hamza, in Canada, a federal government charity that deals strictly with Afghan women and education, bringing educational opportunities to Afghan women and to the Afghan diaspora. So helping Afghan women outside of Afghanistan, maybe if they're living in Pakistan, with teaching opportunities, teaching resources. This charity is called Canadian Women for Afghan Women, and they are actually giving a presentation Wednesday morning at CSW. It's, let's see, 8 o'clock my time, so I think it's 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock New York time. So that's this coming Wednesday. And certainly I've talked to Khatra and Nazia about this group, and I'm building some contacts to help open up communication lines. They do have a website too, so you could look into that. Thanks, Bianca.
Thank you, Julie. I'm going back to Nadia because Helga had a question and the first part was answered, but she was wondering what would support from the outside to establish online education from outside. Outside, I believe from other countries coming in, right?
Yeah.
It's not, it's...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please continue, Bianca.
Yeah, I was like, it's not entirely clear to me the way that it's phrased right now, but I believe rephrase it would be, well, from outside, from other countries, what kind of support could the people give to establish online education for Afghan girls and women? If you want to comment on that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Helga, for asking this question. This is actually what I have asked in my request and recommendations, that that what we can do as individual, that we can start mentoring Afghan girls which are currently in Afghanistan. If we find one, we have to do the mentorship for them, because the situation in Afghanistan is that they do not have access to any opportunity like education, work, and psychotherapy or other things. But what we can do is we can be as a friend with them, because we are in a safe place and we can communicate with them and help them with their to come out from this situation. I am running a very friendly project that I have. We are 15 people, me and my friends. We are doing a project of mentorship. I'm helping my friends and people who are in Afghanistan. There are about 15 girls that I'm helping them through their applications when they are applying for universities, or they are providing opportunities, sharing opportunities with them, some online classes for their mental health, or for some capacity building. I'm sharing with them, and if they have any question with their daily activities or something, I also share, help them with that, or find someone to help with them. So this is the thing that we can do in individual thing, but in a community level or in a country level, we can just do more lobbying for the women, girls, and women access to education, and also to ask our communities and organizations and countries to accept more refugees from Afghanistan and enroll them, provide more scholarships for students in Afghanistan who are not able to continue their education and higher education, also provide some internships or some jobs for women who are the responsible or supporter of their families. As you all know that in Afghanistan, most female are the supporter of their families because they have lost their husband, father, brother, or their son during the war in the past 20 years. And now when Taliban has banned them from working outside, they have no resources or income to work outside. So by providing some opportunities to them to work online, even offline in their countries, so it will be better for them to move on and to work and provide and support their family members. Yeah, this is the small things that we can do as individual and also as a community.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Nazia. I'm moving back to Golson because we got a comment from Hamza, which says, Golson, what a wonderful idea. I wish to see more peace schools in different parts of the world as well. Great job. And that connects actually with a question prepared by Julie. What would it take to get something like the Servas Peace School in Turkey started in another country?
Thank you, Hamza. And she was also being in Servas Peace School last year. And Julie, thank you too. For me, I believe it's not so difficult to make this project to another place. You just need volunteers who thinks this will benefit their children, who is also hospitable. The main purpose in this program make people volunteer for all the needed work. Even children in this program are volunteers. I mean, everybody have a role, and this make it special and successful because all the participants feel productive. How can you make it? You can do it as a school project, and let families be volunteer, and to host this who want to come all over the world. If you want to do this in the nature, you can do it as a camp, like Servas Italy did last year in Sicily. Or if you have a big farm, it will be a wonderful place to invite all the volunteers or children, to host children, quite merrier. But as I say, it's not hard to achieve. You just need a team to start with. And then if you make it creative and interesting enough, it will gain continuity. That's all I can say about it.
Thank you, Gülşen. No, that's so cool because essentially the idea is there, right? And it needs a little bit of initiative, but it doesn't need much. It needs a few active people, and then it sort of can grow from there. And maybe we'll see other peace schools in other countries than in Turkey in the future, which would be great. And then another question actually for you as well, because we've had both voices from Afghanistan and from Turkey today. So Julie was wondering for you, Gülşen, that you referred to certain restrictions by the Turkish government at the moment. And then in connection, what similarities are there between these restrictions and the loss of women's rights in Afghanistan? Draw that connection.
Yeah. I said this. You know, Imam Hatip schools. Imam Hatip is a school for clergy. Clergy, I believe the pronunciation is it. The school numbers disgrace last 10 years, and the government did not build new buildings for these schools. They just took other schools. I mean, they just renamed to high school, normal high school or vocational high school, and they changed their name, changed their curriculum, and they make them school for clergy. Yeah, similarity, you asked similarity. The similarity is that everything in the name of a religion, but in reality, it's all about the power of man and suppression of women, pressure, imposition, whatever we want to call. I'm going to make some kudos in Wikipedia about Istanbul Convention. The Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence, better known as the Istanbul Convention, is a human rights treaty of the Council of Europe, opposing violence against women and domestic violence, which was opened for signature on 11 May 2011 in Istanbul, Turkey. 45 states and European Union signed this, but it was Turkey who signed this convention first. And our government, I mean, Turkey's withdrawal from this convention this last, 2021 July. You see?
Thank you, Gülşen, for sharing
I want one more thing. The restriction, you see, those restrictions and the loss of human rights is very similar to Afghanistan. And I'm afraid if this system will not change, won't change, I'm afraid it will be beginning of the new Afghanistan for Turkey. Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you, Gülşen. We have a question for, well, either I'd say Katra or Nazia can take this one because it's more broadly. So mentioned that education is seen as a way of self-realization. Thinking back, how would you include a questioning mind in this? What's the importance of a questioning mind, or how is that sort of facilitated through education? I think that's what the question is. Do you want to comment on the importance of a questioning mind, either Katra or Nazia?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Well, education as a way of self-realization. I guess, enabling sort of tools to question what we see in the world around us. So it's circling maybe a bit in itself, but yeah, how much a questioning mind, a mind that is sort of questioning what's happening around you and then creating your own voice, is facilitated through education.
Khatra, are you going to answer?
I'm just gonna add some comment, and yeah, you go ahead, please. I think, yeah, definitely you can put it in a sure way that education is a tool for self-realization. In other words, it kind of opens your eyes to new opportunity, to knowing yourself, to what is going around you. And that makes you more observant, more critical of what's happening, and more in the sense to understand or prioritize what is the issue and how to solve the issues and how to be engaged in different society. Especially I think for women in Afghanistan, I think it's really important to be critical of what is happening and how we can implement new solutions to solve the issue and get out of this political conflict situation that have been going on for years, which the people are, or these girls and women are the only one who is paying for the sacrifice, right? And for paying for the cost of this political conflicts. I think in another word, we can say that self-realization, the importance is, it's very transformative, and it can change a lot of things for us personally in our own personal life, in our communication with you and me, and in a larger term, we can say the society and the community around us and the world. And it's like, there's this quote that says, if you educate one person, one individual, you educate one family. But if you educate, how is that the quote? But if you educate, or if you invest a woman, that means that you can change the world with that, and that woman try to try to take the hands of a lot of other people's. So that becomes a cycle of like we empowering each other and helping each other to get through things. And that is the power of self-realization. That is the power of understanding how we can help, how we can't, how to be there for each other, and also learn leadership through self-realization. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Katra. I believe that this connects well with a question prepared by Julie, because we've talked about now, we've highlighted well self-realization and the girls and women's voices and giving them creating that awareness. And about that, with the question is, I'm going to read it to you, with those severe limitations on women in Afghanistan, how do you see the role of men and boys affecting and improving women's rights in Afghan society?
I think, especially in Afghanistan, I think, yeah, I would say our generation, especially the guys and the men, were educated. But when it comes to this society that's so limiting, it kind of makes them to be or to fit in the culture of the Taliban or their belief. I know that this is a huge assumption, but I don't think that any or a lot of men or boys would stand up for women's rights and raise their voices and raise their rights. This is a clear, a clear example when there was protests going on in Afghanistan last year because of their education, right? There's not a lot of men going, and it was mostly women. I'm just saying that I think it's easier for a patriarchy society to fall and follow the same rules because it's easier for them, and instead of standing up and changing a whole system to include women in society and to educate and empower them more, if that makes sense.
Yes, it would be great to see, well, support from everyone, but from well-educated men and boys, that would enhance.
Yeah, hopefully. I am hopeful.
That's good. Thank you so much. Thank you for commenting. We are moving back to Gülşen because Hamza just wanted to thank, well, I guess we can thank all the speakers, but Hamza asked a question to Gülşen, and she wanted to express her gratitude. And well, that it takes courage to answer these questions. I think that also belongs to all of you. And that it is much appreciated to have these questions and the answers and your personal insights. It's so personal. So really thank you to all of you. And I would like to ask a question prepared to all of you, because it's taking it into broader context. And we didn't receive too many recent questions from the audience, so I feel free to moving to a more general question. That is, could you speak to the value of how international support, such as partnerships, networking through UN events like this one, foreign government interventions or donations of monies or resource materials, etc., could help in building and expanding educational opportunities in Afghanistan and Turkey? So this is for all of you. If you want to comment on that, feel free to mute yourselves.
Okay, so I will start if Gülşen and Khatra allows me. So I will start with that. It's related more to my presentation, as I requested that international community can make a huge impact by helping or giving more fundings to the programs promoting education in Afghanistan and Turkey as well. So yeah, what I say, I think my internet is not working. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, we can hear you properly, Nazia.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so yeah, what I said that during 2001 and 2018 in Afghanistan, international community has contributed a lot to bring more girls back to school, and it was not just in the cities but in rural areas as well. It was their contribution that helped families or encouraged families to allow their girls to schools, just because they have built the schools near to their villages. And it was international communities funding and donations that they built. They bring more facilities for women and girls to get access to schools near to them and to the quality education, as well as to build their capacities in different areas. As I mentioned, my course, it was a leadership and management, which has given me a different perspective to life. So yeah, this is like, I always appreciate international community's contribution to my country. That's why, like, I'm again requesting for their help, because this is the international community who can bring changes, who can force the decision makers that could help my country's people and could make them or what I can say, like now most of the people in the international community, like for the organization that I have worked, it's called GIZ, and it's pressurizing Taliban to allow more women to work in the projects. And if they do not allow, they will close their projects. And this is like the thing that they are negotiating with Taliban through their help. So I think I would take this thing positively, that international community can make impacts in my country as well as in Turkey. Yeah.
Thank you, Nazia. Katra or Golson, do you want to comment on the question as well?
Thank you, Nazia. Thank you, Bianca. I agree with Nazia. I want to add some things, but I'm not sure it will be suffice enough to your question and answer your question. Yeah, internal sports, very important, international sports. And the networking, especially through UN, and money always welcome. But yeah, it will be much help for this. You need to access, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, if you want to help, you need to access this Afghanis girls, Afghanis children, so you can provide to help. Even though money can open all the doors, do not forget why we are being forced to stay ignorant for political gain, for manpower. If you cannot help this nation to get rid of this system they're in right now, the system they're in right now, and it is very low chance to be helpful to them, to help them, I mean. Of course, in every society, there are people who are aware of this kind of situation and try to make a difference in their community. And you can find these people and make those changes with them in time. I mean, small changes. This will be small changes, but in the time, this will grow, and hopefully you gain all the society free. Will be free, but it is a long time process.
But we're hopeful, right? That's, I think, the underlining. We're positive.
Yeah, you want to be hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but be aware of these countries that using the religion to oppress their citizens, not just damaging their people. Think of the pollution. I think it's of like a pollution, you know, like carbon dioxide, carbon poisoning. It's eventually grow and affect all the world. So I believe every one of us have a responsibility to help those communities like Afghan, like Turkey, like Syria, like Iran, to get rid of this system they are in. Of course, I'm hopefully, because all of us here are educated and have good heart and have broad vision. We believe in ourselves, we believe our people, we believe in our country. Yeah, we will do something, and we will accept every help, and we will work together. Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you, Golson. I think with that, you know, talking about one's own responsibility, the insights that you shared today, the personal, you know, it directs the responsibility that each of us can take, and then, you know, direct our efforts more successfully in getting, more access to education and empowering girls and women in Afghanistan and Turkey. And with that, actually, we've come to the end of the Q&A. Thank you so much to the speakers for taking all these questions, and thank you for the attendees that asked these questions. With that, I would like to hand back to Julie for wrapping up the session.
Thanks, Bianca, and thanks very much to the speakers. We have about four minutes left, so if any of the speakers would like to make some just final reflections, and then if there's time, I'd like to make a couple of concluding statements. So I'll start with Khatira. Any final reflections in the last few minutes?
I also wanted to point out, comment on the last question that Bianca asked is, I think international community, just really quick on that, just international community is just considered as a structure that brings all of us together, like us here, to tell these stories, to tell these issues. There's a two different thing between not knowing what is happening and being ignorant of it. Events like this is making us more informed of what is really happening. And you know how you ask about mind questioning or critical realization, it's, oh, we just wake up, it's like, oh, is Afghanistan's or women's issue important to me? Yes, okay, let me do something. This is how it is. The cycle happens, and this is how we're making change as we go. And it is really critical. It is really critical to have the involvement of international communities in Afghanistan and Turkey to take the issues serious and come together to find a solution and help us. Because in Afghanistan, we have the woman standing there. All we need is a little bit push. All we need is a little bit funding and a little bit of support to just voice us, you know, in the background, say like, hey, we're here. We support you no matter what. Keep going, you know. Otherwise, it's hard. It's hard to stand, honestly, against a terrorist group, you know, because all they do is like, if you keep talking, they just kill you, you know. If the international community don't do it, this is just becomes like a repetitive cycle, like kill, you know, kill, and that's it. What kind of society is that? What kind of society does it represent for us in Western countries? And honestly, the question is, how are we going to live with ourselves, you know, to see a world like that? We always talk about peace, but do we actually implement that, you know? Do we actually believe that in our bones? Right? That's a question. To reflect, I'd say, I actually really believe this. I think there's not a lot of opportunities are given to Afghan women. There's not a lot of events. There's not a lot of awards. There's not a lot of recognition for the bravery that Afghan women are showing and consistently fighting. But instead, they're always like being oppressed, not only by the Taliban. In a lot of ways, we can say by international communities. Where were they? It's almost 2 years, honestly. I'm not criticizing, I'm not complaining. Well, I'm saying that this woman, this brave woman, needs a better chance, needs a better opportunity, and a better life than they are given in Afghanistan, you know, because they're trying, they keep trying, and they keep breaking just because they don't have the right support, they don't have the right opportunities. And it's, I don't know, yesterday there was the nomination, the Oscar nomination, you know, I get it. Like, why there's no mention of those women who are suffering, or why there's no bravery or recognition of this woman in Iran and Afghanistan or the rest of the world, right? I don't know, that's personally my belief, but you take whatever that you think is positive. But the point is that, yeah, let's come together and give as much opportunity as we can to them and make this world a better place for all of us to live. Thank you.
I think coming together is a very beautiful statement, and the resilience of women just amazes me personally, the stories I hear. We're really running out of time, but Nazia, do you have any final reflections?
Yeah, but just a small comment that I totally agree with Khatra, that people are talking a lot about peace, about women's rights, and about education and everything, just in some specific sessions when it comes. But after completing that session, they forgot everything, especially when it comes to Afghanistan matter. So I really request everyone, when they are going to these sessions, please take the notes with themselves and forward it to their communities and talk and share those all. I shared my personal story. It's not just because it was just my story. It was the story of all those girls of my age in Afghanistan who suffered with the same situation. Even my parents suffered from this situation. And I do not want the other generation, next generation coming after us, face the same problems. So that's the thing that we should bring more awareness and bring international community's attention to these issues, so that they could stop the war and the conflicts in these countries, so that the people do not suffer from the same situation in every generation. Yeah, thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you, Nazia. Gülşen, any final reflections?
I just want to thank you. Thank you for listening, everybody, and thank you, Julie, and the team who helped. Bianca, thank you so much. Just this.
Okay, thank you very much. Just some final words. You know, we've heard shattered dreams. We've heard half the population in Afghanistan has no voice. And then we've learned about children and locals and visitors coming together in a very, very genuine, very human activities with the Turkish Peace School. So there's a lot to think about. I would like to really just end with a couple of sentences. I think it's really important that all human voices are not just listened to, but are actually heard. And this idea has been presented throughout the session. You know, I think we simply need to engage with each other through, as we saw, the Turkish Peace School, the sharing of activities, the storytelling. I think that's very powerful. And any conversation always starts with two people, but what it leads to is an open-mindedness around differences. And that is very powerful for the future. You know, I would imagine that we all want the same thing. We all want basic necessities. So, you know, clean water, food, a roof over our head. We want to be safe from violence. We want love of family and friends and good health and opportunities, especially to learn, because we've learned that education is a starting point of a future. And we want that freedom and that flexibility to enjoy all those prospects. You know, I really want to thank our audience. I want to thank our speakers. You've given very thoughtful, very honest, and much appreciated contributions. Have a good day. Have a good evening. I'll say goodbye for now.